is personal information about some of the nation's top intelligence officials. The hacker, who describes himself as a high school teenager, angry about the plight of the Palestinians.
Rob is going to show us how it's done.
A lot of these things can be done pretty easily.
Rob Simon has been hacking for years.
You're now looking at the code of this website, and you can see, just with your eyes, you can see where there's problems.
Read the code, and you can see a problem.
It's a tale that sounds like it's ripped straight from a Hollywood thriller, but it's all too real. In October 2015, two brilliant teenagers embarked on a journey that would shake the very foundations of one of the most powerful intelligence agencies in the world, the CIA. Meet Kraka and Default, two young geniuses with a passion for technology and a thirst for justice. But what drove these kids to take on the might of the CIA? And how did they manage to pull off one of the most audacious hacks in history? Welcome back to Mogul Flicks, where we bring you the most jaw-dropping stories from around the globe. Today, we're diving deep into the world of cyber espionage and government intrigue. It all starts with two kids with a knack for technology and a thirst for rebellion. Kraka, a 15-year-old from England, and Default, a typical American teenager, find themselves drawn into the world of hacking.
Publicized activism attributed to Anonymous.
They call themselves Anonymous.
Inspired by groups like Anonymous, they set out to challenge the status quo and expose what they perceive as corruption and injustice. Kraka's first target? James Clapper, the National Director of Intelligence under the Obama administration. With just a simple Google search, Kraka uncovers Clapper's personal information and gains access to his email. Meanwhile, Default, intrigued by Kraka's actions, joins forces with him to take on high-ranking members of the intelligence community. Together, they set their sights on John Brennan, the head of the CIA. But how did Kraka and Default manage to breach the CIA's formidable defenses?
This was political.
Teenager
cyber attacks
hijacked the computers of several US intelligence and
a
security
collective called Crackers with Attitude.
It wasn't just about technical prowess, it was also about exploiting human error and institutional complacency. Kraka manipulates Verizon's internal tech support to gain access to Brennan's personal email account, while Default assists in harassing Brennan with relentless phone calls. Their tactics involve impersonating on-site technicians, exploiting flaws in authentication processes, and leveraging publicly available information to reset passwords. Through a combination of social engineering and psychological manipulation, they penetrate the CIA's security infrastructure and gain access to sensitive documents, causing chaos and embarrassment for the intelligence community. With Kraka's initial success in breaching James Clapper's email, the duo's confidence swells. Egged on by Default and fueled by a sense of righteous indignation, Kraka sets his sights higher. He approaches WikiLeaks' Julian Assange, who takes a keen interest in their exploits. In October 2015, the bombshell dropped. WikiLeaks published documents obtained from Brennan's compromised email account. Among the trove of sensitive information is Brennan's 47-page SF-86 application, a document crucial for obtaining top-secret government security clearance. This form exposes Brennan's criminal history, psychological records, past drug abuse, and other details no one would want floating around online. But the revelations don't stop there. From Brennan's emails, WikiLeaks unveils Bush-era recommendations on Middle East operations and internal congressional correspondence outlining future interrogation methods. The breach sends shockwaves through the intelligence community, costing the CIA a staggering $1.5 million in damages and relocation expenses as operatives scramble into hiding. Yet despite the gravity of their actions, the breach itself was embarrassingly easy. As Kraka and Default reflect on their exploits, they realize the sheer simplicity of their infiltration. In a candid moment, they rate the difficulty level of their hack as a mere 1 out of 10, highlighting the glaring vulnerabilities in even the most fortified institutions. As the fallout intensifies, Kraka and Default continue their onslaught, gaining access to FBI and Justice Department databases. Their audacious moves reveal personal information of thousands of officials, causing further chaos and embarrassment.
Their slate wiped clean, as it were. If you look, some of them, a substantial amount of money, like $70,000.
But amidst the havoc, a question looms. Did they truly believe they could get away with it? Meanwhile, Default, driven by a mixture of indignation and a desire for justice, finds himself entangled in a web of cyber activism. His journey begins with a fascination for hacking, sparked by the exploits of Anonymous and other online vigilante groups. Yet, disillusioned by Anonymous's infighting and lack of direction, Default seeks a new path. Enter AnonSec, an offshoot of Anonymous with a more focused agenda. Default joins the ranks, honing his skills and channeling his newfound abilities towards causes he believes in. His motivations evolve from mere curiosity to a sense of altruism, fueled by a desire to right the wrongs he sees in the world. One of his early endeavors involves targeting Denmark's lax laws on bestiality, which leads to a surge in animal sex tourism. Default and his cohorts launched cyber attacks and exposed the seedy underbelly of this practice, eventually contributing to Denmark's decision to ban bestiality in April 2015. But Default's activism takes a more serious turn when he crosses paths with Kraka, the mastermind behind the breaches of high-ranking government officials like James Clapper and John Brennan. Impressed by Kraka's audacity, Default joins forces with him, driven by a shared disdain for government surveillance and corruption. Their actions escalate as they hack into Brennan's personal email account, exposing sensitive documents and embarrassing the CIA. Despite the risks, Kraka and Default press on, fueled by a sense of righteous fury and a belief that their actions will spark change. As their exploits gain notoriety, Kraka and Default become symbols of resistance in the online community. But their actions also attract the attention of law enforcement, leading to raids and arrests. While Kraka receives a lenient sentence due to his age, Default faces a harsher punishment, spending 5 years in federal prison. Their story echoes that of Edward Snowden, whose whistleblowing exposed the extent of government surveillance and sparked a global debate on privacy rights. Yet despite the risks and sacrifices, Kraka, Default, and others like them refuse to remain silent in the face of injustice. The impact of Kraka and Default's actions reverberated far beyond the confines of their initial breach, creating a ripple effect that was both felt domestically and internationally. Domestically, their exploits had found implications for the perception of government agencies' ability to safeguard sensitive information. The breach of the CIA, one of the most secure intelligence agencies in the world, exposed glaring vulnerabilities in its security infrastructure. This revelation undermined public trust in the government's capacity to protect classified data, raising questions about the adequacy of cybersecurity measures employed by federal agencies. The breach served as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need for enhanced cybersecurity practices and greater transparency regarding government surveillance activities. Internationally, Kraka and Default's actions ignited debates surrounding the ethics of government surveillance and the delicate balance between national security imperatives and individual privacy rights. Their breach of the CIA shed light on the scope and scale of intelligence-gathering activities conducted by governments, sparking widespread concern over the potential abuse of surveillance powers. The incident fueled discussions about the necessity of robust oversight mechanisms to ensure that surveillance programs operate within legal and ethical boundaries, safeguarding civil liberties while upholding national security interests. Furthermore, the breach prompted increased scrutiny of cybersecurity practices not only within government agencies, but also across private organizations. The exposure of vulnerabilities in the CIA's security infrastructure served as a cautionary tale, highlighting the potential consequences of inadequate defenses against cyber threats. As a result, both government entities and private sector organizations intensified efforts to bolster their cybersecurity posture, implementing reforms aimed at enhancing resilience against future attacks. These reforms encompass measures such as strengthening encryption protocols, improving threat detection capabilities, and enhancing employee training on cybersecurity best practices. In essence, Kraka and Default's actions underscored the interconnected nature of cybersecurity and its broader implications for national security, public trust, and individual privacy. Their breach served as a catalyst for reforms aimed at addressing systemic vulnerabilities and fortifying defenses against evolving cyber threats in an increasingly interconnected world. In a world where privacy is increasingly under threat, the actions of Kraka, Default, and others like them remind us that the fight for freedom is far from over. And as long as there are those willing to speak truth to power, the flame of resistance will continue to burn bright, lighting the way for future generations. As we wrap up the story of the two kids who hacked the CIA, one thing becomes clear. The truth may be stranger than fiction, but it also serves as a stark reminder of the power of technology and the enduring impact of human ingenuity. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of cybersecurity and hacking. Remember to stay vigilant and keep your information secure in an increasingly interconnected world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on Mogul Flicks. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious. Missed our previous captivating tales? Don't miss out. Click on the video on your screen and revisit the stories that shaped history.